then I will try, but maybe a little bit difficult because many people and I don't know what the facilities there are. So let us cancel, huh? And do 2 weeks later. And if I see the facilities, and I may contact you, and then by Thursday or Friday let you know if maybe not necessary to cancel. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
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 But
Thank you, Pastor.
meantime, please take it as cancelled, huh? Uh, and I think it is maybe the best solution because we don't know what the programs there will be, and I have to be in accordance with the program. I can change it for one day, but maybe give inconvenience a little bit. Huh? Okay.
Fase
So,
2 weeks from now is the same time.
same time, same day. Huh?
Yes.
Uh, Sunday, 14:30 Central European time. You call it Paris time, hmm?
Yes.
And the your time is, I think, 8:30 or something like that. No,
Yes.
what is
It's
your time?
7:30.
7:30.
Yes.
Oh, so only 5 hours difference. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a summertime and the winter time and all kind of complications. Who knows? And we don't know what kind of time we're facing, huh? But anyway, as far as we are here and nothing drastic happens, so always, unless some special event is coming, then always Sunday, 2:30 my time and 5:30 or maybe 6:30 when the time changes. Uh, so we continue with that, okay?
Yes. Yes, Fase.
Until we finish the book, which will surely take a lot of time.
Yes. Yes, Fase.
But we can also do a little bit faster. We can do a little bit slower according to the conditioning.
Yes. Yes.
Let me see where we have finished. I have the text here.
Yes. Fase, can I have a question from the last
Yes, sure.
teaching?
That is
Yes.
very important. We interrupted this our practice in the beginning, always questions, and then we do the lecture. Huh? So
Yes.
please think some good questions always, and we do it in the beginning. Yeah. Please, Johan, what is your question?
Yeah, Fase. Actually, I was a little bit uh, not clear, yeah, not clear about uh, attention, attention that Fase mentioned before. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
it called nama
Namasikara.
yeah, namasikara. Yeah.
Namaskara. You may have the same word in Indonesian. Many words are similar. These technical words. Huh? How
Yes.
do you say attention in Indonesian?
Attention in Indonesia is perhatian, Fase.
That's a different. Huh? Okay, but
Yeah.
very often I noticed many Sanskrit words and Pali words in Indonesian. Huh? So
Yes.
it is. Okay, so this manasikara means literally manasi is this is peculiarity of Sanskrit and our my language also. Slavonic languages, they have 7 cases. Huh? Manasi is a locative case. Huh? In. You don't need to use any preposition in when you use the locative case. So it is clear that it is in. And kara means doing. Huh? So doing in mind. Huh? And doing in mind means when you don't have a desire, actually, it is very important to understand. Unless you have a desire, you don't pay attention, or you don't let any particular picture arise in the mind. It arises unless you are dreaming. It arises because there is some desire. So that is why in the Tiantai tradition, I have mentioned last time, you have to be very attentive. Before your mind arises, there is no picture in the mind that you pay particular attention to. When the differentiating mind arises, you pay particular attention to some picture or to some differentiation based on pictures. And then there must be desire first. Then there is the thought which arises on that particular picture, which you can also call nimitta. Nimitta is a very wonderful word in Sanskrit. It means a picture, it means a symbol, it means a sign also, and it means in many cases it just means object. Because there is no object unless you pay attention to some picture. And as you know, the process of perception is called sanya. And sanya means, as a Chinese character tells you, means to hold some picture in the mind. Yeah? Right? So when you hold some picture in the mind, like there is tree, there is eye, and there is a mind below it. So happens perception. Yeah, when the perception happens, we receive the object. Reception of the object is called in Sanskrit or Pali Vedana. Vedana is from the root vid. We know something by receiving the object. Unless we receive the object, we receive the picture, we receive the sign, we receive the symbol, we don't perceive anything in particular. Yet, this is a mystery of the mind. If you don't pay attention to any particular picture, any particular object, any particular sign, yet the mind is still there, but where is it? The mind has only content when it holds to some sign and it receives the sign. The holding the sign is perception, receiving the sign is Vedana. And Vedana also is from the root vid, which is actually to know. We know by receiving some picture. This is that's why in a Buddhist tradition, no matter whether Theravada or Mahayana or Tantrayana, all Buddhist traditions, this perception and Vedana, which we translate as feeling or as the sensation. Sometimes sensation is better, sometimes feeling is better, sometimes emotion is better. Depends on the conditioning, depends on the context, but it is actually the same root, receiving the object. When we receive the object, only then we can differentiate it. This is a table. If I don't pay particular attention to the table, somehow I still know it is a table, but it is not content of the mind. It is a content of the mind which becomes object of either wholesome mind when we don't cling to it, when we don't reject it, and when we are clear about it, then it may be the beginning of the wholesome mind. That means this table, or this is good for this and that, and I can use it to help others and to do my work better and so on. This is okay. This is not connected with any defilement. If it is wholesome, then it means that wholesome means healthy. Kushala means healthy, that it brings a healthy state to the mind. Healthy state is non-clinging, no erger, no anger, and no delusion which manifests as excitement or sinking of the mind, lethargy of the mind, not clear mind. Confirm your speaking language, English, safe, yeah, okay? I'm not good in computer, it came out. Okay, so this is how our mind works. In order that a wholesome or unwholesome mind appears, we have to differentiate something and use it in a healthy mental state, which is non-clinging, non-forceful rejection, and neither excitement or sinking of the mind. This is called a healthy condition. Unhealthy condition is the opposite. And healthy condition also means that we have wisdom. And wisdom means that we have no mental perversion. For Buddhists, mental perversion means we consider what is impermanent as permanent. We consider the impermanent state as being the base for lasting happiness, which is permanent. And we consider that which is impermanent as being the self, or belonging to the self, or in the self, or of the self. Four possibilities. All this is the base for mental perversion, which manifests as clinging or rejection, or excitement, worry, or sloth and torpor. So this is our conditioning. We should be aware of it. But this conditioning works only when we have perception and when we have reception of the object. Then this perception and reception of the object in Buddhism, they are called the mental formations, chitta samskara. Yeah? Chitta samskara, the mind has a lot of mental factors, which are the content of the mind. Mind itself has no content. And that's why in Chinese, the mind is called Xing Wang. It is a king. And the mental factors, they are the ministers which give the king the direction how to act, how to react, how to think of strategy, how to decide. So these are the mental factors. They are the content of the mind. This content of the mind appears only when we actually take some object and differentiate some object. So that mind which differentiates some object is called vijnana. Vijnana, V means differentiation and jnana means knowledge. Knowledge by differentiation. And this knowledge can be wholesome if we have no mental perversion, if we don't take impermanent as permanent, if we don't take the that which is impermanent cannot bring the lasting happiness, we take as being permanent and bringing lasting happiness. That's why we cling to it. and we take it for the self, belonging to the self, of the self, in the self. Therefore, we react without wisdom. When we react without wisdom, we are on the side of the akushala, unhealthy mind. When we react with wisdom, we are on the side of the healthy mind. So, how do we know we have this choice? This is why this treatise is so important. We know it in the gaps. When the one thought ends, the other thought starts. And there is a gap. This gap actually appears between each and every thought, and also between each and every life, between each and every thought process, and between each and every life. We go to the gap. In this gap, actually, it is there, but we are not clear where it is. But due to this gap, there is continuity. That's why in Theravada, continuity of the mind is based on bhavanga, which means the cause of existence. In Mahayana, it is called alaya, which means a mind which is attached. Because it is attached, it dwells in the world. So Buddhism is very practical. We suffer, and because we suffer, we have to know the cause of suffering. So the cause of suffering is this clinging. So the real cause of suffering are, the Buddha explained, there are many causes. We are separated from what we like. We are connected with what we dislike. We have sickness. We have old age. We have death. We have birth. All these are manifestation of suffering, but it is not the real suffering. Buddha explained the real suffering is 5 aggregates of clinging. Upadana, skandha. Upadana means upadana. We, like a monkey, we grasp it. Because we grasp the existence, which is the 5 aggregates, it is all our world according to Buddhism. It is the object of wisdom, which we normally don't see. We see the self, but don't see the objects of wisdom. The objects of wisdom, when we know the clinging to them is unwholesome, then we become more attentive, we become more clear. And in this tradition we are now learning, we become clear of what? We become more and more clear of the gaps between one thought and another thought, between the one in-breath and the out-breath. Everything in these gaps is there, but appears naturally. We don't need to struggle. So actually in this tradition, also in Zen, very important is by wisdom, which is awareness. In Buddhism, awareness is synonym of vipassana, of wisdom, of clarity. All this is a synonym actually. So when we have awareness, we become more and more conscious of these gaps, and we extend them not by force. This is wrong according to Buddhism. In yoga, it is often done, but in Buddhism, from point of view of Buddhism, it is not connected with wisdom. In the wisdom, everything is happening due to certain rules, and we call these rules dependent origination. In dependent origination, when we understand, we don't need to impose on our experience any self. And on the world outside also, we don't need to impose any lasting nature. So we are, so to say, in what this scripture calls a natural state. Natural state is not clinging to anything. It happens naturally when we do not think. That's why we have learned in the scripture that Buddha says, I think it is in Lankavatara Sutra, or if I'm not wrong, or in Lotus Sutra, the Buddha says, when you don't think, you are facing the Buddha's wisdom. But very important, people get confused. When we don't think, we are still in the alaya. We are still in bhavanga. And the bhavanga is continuity based on karma, not a continuity based on freedom from karma, which the arahat or Buddha attains. Not clinging to karma. So because of this continuity, then we still, even so we have a realization, we still cling to our thinking. Because from thinking, when we think, we pay attention to something. When we pay attention to something, we investigate it, we like it, we don't like it, we want it, we don't want it. It comes automatically. These are our vasanas, our habitual energies. According to Mahayana, even Arahat have these habitual energies. Only Buddha is free from them. Now we have learned, we come back to our text to answer your question. We have learned this Shi Jue. The enlightenment is a process. But in a Zen tradition, if we have learned the Platform Sutra, as you may know, the fifth patriarch gives Huineng the stick of the patriarchs and the gun and the ball, and he sends him away after reading his poem, which expresses his ultimate understanding. He says, the body, the mirror, it was a reaction to the previous poem of the most important disciple of the fifth patriarch, Shen Shu, which he says we have to always make the mirror clean, so that we, so to say, reflect things as they really are. This is a perfect approach. You will find it in this scripture also. This is the approach we have learned from the beginning, which is stopping, then next one contemplating impermanence, next one contemplating the true state of things, which is non-dualistic, and finally coming back to the beginning, which is no beginning. This is Buddha, being always in the beginning, which is no beginning. We are in the beginning, which is beginning, not no beginning. So these four stages, which explain the mental process and all processes inside, outside of us, is arising, the lasting or continuity, then impermanence, and then cessation. We started because we explained the process from the end to the beginning. We want to become Buddhas. Buddhas is a beginning with no beginning. Beginning with no beginning. We can contemplate from the beginning on this. That's why the reaction of Huineng is, which is the essence of the contemplating the Buddha nature from the very beginning as being our natural state. The body does not need any tree. Bodhi pen wu shu. Qing jing yi wu tai. The pure pure mirror which just reflects the things, does not need any stand. Pen lai wu yi wu. Originally there is nothing to grasp. So where he chu re cheng ai, where can the dust sit down? There is no place for dust sit down. So what does it mean in our scripture? It comes right now today. It means that these stages, arising, lasting, impermanence, and cessation, they exist. But they exist in worldly truth. In the highest truth, there is no such division. Beginning is the end, and end is the beginning. And what nothing really real can last, because we have learned in our scripture, everything is based on the Tathagata Garbha. Tathagata Garbha is the highest truth in the mind, which is covered by ignorance. And the highest truth in the mind is its Buddha nature. It is the Dharmakaya. It is the Dharma truth, Dharma element, and whatever. It is a suchness. That is a truth of the mind. And in this mind, which is in suchness, this arising, lasting, impermanent, cessation, they are not real. For us, they are real because we hang to the mind. But in the gap between one thought and another, there is no place to hanging to the mind. Yet we are completely aware without paying attention to anything in particular. I am still aware. I am in the room. I am here and there. But my reception of this room is the result of my previous experience. This is very important for understanding this tradition. It belongs also to Chitta Matrata, mind, pure mind only, which says that actually we see the object not as they are, but according to our concept of the object. This concept of the object, or name for the object, or that means what we use for communication, the syllables, the words, the names. All these actually are concepts by which we already are prepared to receive the reality on the base of the names, concepts, but not on the base of reality, which is non-dualistic. This reality of our, which puts something lasting in the mind, something stable in the mind, this is called parikalpita. Pian-chi in Chinese. Pian means everywhere. Chi means to put things together somehow. So we things that we see the reality, but we already see pre-prepared reality. Huh? Like when we buy food in the supermarket. Huh? So it is already pre-prepared for consumption. Huh? So that we can consume it. So we have instant noodles and so on and so on. They already prepared for us to consume. And everybody actually consumes in accordance with his names, with his concept, with his syllables, with his communication, with the surrounding and with the society he lives in. It is same for animals, same for humans, same for gods. We are pre-programmed by this parikalpita, by the words or concepts which give a lasting impression to the non-lasting reality. And our dependent origination, which is a true state of things, is already pre-programmed by these concepts. We are not aware of it, but we become aware of it precisely in these gaps, because things are there, yet we don't do anything. We don't judge. Unless we put something, a particular picture into the mind, particular symbol into the mind, particular memory into the mind, all this is meaning of nimitta. Then we don't have place for any obvious clinging or grasping or any obvious dislike or liking. We just are there. And that state, which is call it bhavanga or call it alaya, is crucial for our understanding of reality. For our understanding that we are actually pre-programmed to see certain things and ignore other things. We are pre-programmed by our habitual energies, which form our karma. So we already act on the base of the karmic mind, as a Lankavatara Sutra, which is a base for Zen tradition. This is what Dhammo taught in China. It says that actually alaya is, in its essence, it is not different from the highest reality, from the Buddha nature, from the Dharmakaya, and so on. But how can we find out? We can find out when best in this state of non-thinking. When the thinking arises, it already makes some object in the mind, and when we receive the object, then we already have the feeling which is connected with liking and disliking usually. And if it is not connected with liking and disliking, we search for some other feeling, which is excitement, or we become dull, sleepy. So we lose the clarity of the mind. Why we lose the clarity of the mind? Because we operate the mind not with wisdom, but with non-awareness, non-mindfulness. So the important part of mindfulness, which is not stressed in Theravada, important part of mindfulness in Mahayana, in Zen, in Tantric tradition, is this situation of the gaps. That's why also when we meditate in Chinese tradition on the breath, we meditate, especially pay attention not to so much to in-breath and out-breath. In beginning we do, but finally we turn attention to the period between the in-breath and out-breath and out-breath and in-breath. In that period, we are, so to say, we are still breathing, but we don't we are breathing, so to say, naturally. The heart is still pumping. Because the heart is pumping, our cells are opening and closing, opening and closing. That is called a life faculty. Life faculty is there, so we are alive. Because we are alive, we are moving. Yes? Why we are moving? Because that which moves is the mind. And how does it move? By the means of the prana, of chi. This is our situation. So these techniques which are developed further in tantric tradition and so on, is to move consciously the prana to the parts of the body you need and so on, to get the also mastery of the mind. And this is not in Theravada. In Theravada, just pure observation. Not mastery of the mind by manipulating the horse on which the mind is riding. In the yoga, the mind is compared to the rider, and the chi is compared to the horse or prana. And due to how we manipulate the mind, so we can also connect with the mastery of the mind. So we are not just in this tradition, especially the tantric tradition, we are not just mindful observers, we are also reconstructing our reality. And this comes also here. So we are in the impermanence. These 4 stages of realization, they are also in impermanence, because as long as we have not come to the beginning, like the Buddha, Buddha is in the beginning, which is no beginning. So he is the highest reality itself, which is no beginning, no end. And we call this highest reality suchness, or the Buddha, or the Dharma body, or the true state of things as they are, Dharmata, or the element of Dharma, Dharma Dhatu, or we call it non-dualistic nirvana, or great nirvana, as opposed to small nirvana, individual nirvana. However you call it, doesn't really matter. What matters is the principle. These stages, which are the content of each and every process outside and inside of us, that is arising, duration, impermanence, and cessation, these stages, they appear on the background of that which does not move. And we become aware of it in these gaps. But it does not mean that these gaps are the Buddha mind. We are still connected to clinging to our habitual energies, but we can, in these gaps, we can realize that these habitual energies, they are not real. So this is according to Mahayana, according to Nagarjuna, it is the fastest way to get into this timeless dimension in which we originally are. We were never separated from the timeless dimension. We are always in it. So we polish the mirror, but that mirror is does not need any stand, does not need any will, does not need any, it is naturally happening. It has no dust because it is our true nature. So in this our true nature, nothing really exists. Pen lai wu yi wu. Since nothing really exists in its true nature, so where would the dust come? It comes from our ignorance. This is precisely what our text says. So these 4 stages which we experience in meditation, starting with a stage of cessation, when we don't allow the unhealthy thoughts to continue. Then we have a realization of impermanence. When we meditate in Theravada, I have done all this. So you meditate so that the mind, you make the impermanence unbearable. So the mind turns to the reality which is clearly beyond impermanence. Even so you have just a glimpse into that reality, it never abandons you. So you don't take this world so seriously if you become the stream enterer. It is very useful. But it is still very, very far from the beginning, which is timeless. And we have learned in our scripture that all the phenomena arise from the Tathagata Garbha, from the Buddha nature. So the reality of the impermanence cannot be separated from the Buddha nature. They exist parallel. Similarly, we cleaning the mirror to come to the nirvana, but at the same time, we in the scripture, we learning to realize that this is our true state, natural state from the very beginning. And it exists. We don't need to do anything. It is there. And it is there when we understand what our text says, the mixed nature of our continuity mind. The mixed nature of our continuity mind is it mixes the timeless dimension and the time dimension into one harmonious whole. So this process of impermanence appears at the same time as that which is always there. It can never disappear. Then this process of impermanence is that which we experience in the world, and we don't take it very seriously. So we don't get too excited by it. We don't get too frustrated by it. And we go into closer and closer to the real nature of our mind, which is peace. Peace is the true nature of our mind. We don't need to do anything, but we are already close to it when we don't think. When we start thinking, all the likings and disliking take hold of our mind. This is in a way natural. We have to have certain likings and certain disliking in order to live in this world. But when we understand that they are not real, they don't belong to uh, really belong to realities, that they are something which is, so to say, product. We put them together by our conditioning. Then we are able to do much more positive activities for ourselves, also for others. In them, in when we don't cling too much to our conditioning, then we can also help others to not to cling too much to their conditioning. Like if you want to do consultation, I do a little bit sometimes. If people get excited, if you also get excited, then how can you help them? You will make them even more excited. So the best way, at least the Mahayana scriptures say, to come quickly to the peace is to meditate on this uh, Buddha nature. And this Buddha nature is best revealed in the situations when we don't think, in these gaps. Things happen by themselves. Yet we are still, due to our habitual energies, we are still bound to these symbols which are not the same for us and different for others, these nimittas. We are humans, but yet we react all in a different way. Then the gods react completely different ways than we do. Animals also completely different ways. The fish also completely different ways. Everybody according to this, what he has constructed in his mind by these names, concepts which give some stable nature to that which by definition cannot have any self-lasting nature. It is always dependent on the other. But in our case, dependent on the other means dependent on our concepts. Without the preparation, we don't uh, we don't actually perceive anything. So, like this famous example of the seeing the snake in a rope. We have maybe all have gone through this illusion many times. So when we know that this is not the snake, it is only the rope, then we react in a different way. And this rope is also not real. It is still composed of many, many things. And therefore, all reality, at least according to the scripture, all reality from the very beginning is actually, unless we are aware of it, is ignorance when we think, because its tendencies already appear there, which is all right. Let these tendencies appear, but don't attach to them. This is a non-dualistic approach. So the thinking and no thinking should not be opposed to each other, but should be harmonized. This is the function of the wisdom according to the scriptures. And they are harmonized according to this, what we have learned. They are harmonized as we make progress in the meditation. First, we stop the negative thinking and there is one who stops, and there is if there is one who stops, we need energy to stop. We need conviction to stop. We need power of will. We need courage to stop. When we contemplate the impermanence and succeed in contemplation of impermanence, when we study the bodhisattva path, when we have realized our faith, we also have understood completely that this impermanence is not real. When we study Theravada, Vipassana, then we understand that it is not real by direct seeing of that which is beyond impermanence, by letting the experience of impermanence be so troublesome that we just can't stand it, and mind itself turns to the reality which is beyond all this. So all the perceptions appear, and all the feelings appear and disappear at the same moment, like bubbles in the water. This is the entrance into the deep inside. In Visuddhimagga, it is compared to, in the old days, they kept the samudra kaka, the crows in the ship, because they had no compass. So they kept crows, and when they studied the stars, they studied the planets, they studied the movement of the sun and of the moon. But when there is a storm and nothing can be seen, what did they do? They launch these crows, and these crows, they turn around the mast, and when they don't see anything, then they come back because they are hungry, and so they give them some fish or whatever. Then they launch them again. Then again they turn around, not seeing anything, then come back again, very tired. This is how one meditates in Theravada until this one sees something where one can find rest, and kra, 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 then flies in that direction, explains Visuddhimagga. Similarly, the meditator always launches his mind into the more and more speedy impermanence until kra, 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 it flies to the security of the other shore. But in Mahayana, we work from the beginning with this security is the true nature of our mind. And Nagarjuna says this is the much faster way to realize than by practicing Vipassana in this way. I don't know. I just repeat what Nagarjuna says. So, what does it mean? It means that this the conviction that this is really our true nature, which is unchangeable and which is only covered by ignorance, is very, very useful for meditation. And this we best realize in these gaps, when we prolong these gaps and make them natural, make the state of non-thinking natural. And for that we need shamatha. So that is why the Mahayana tradition emphasizes so much shamatha. samadhi. We have to get to the samadhi to understand that our thoughts are illusionary. So whether we train first on these dhyanas, traditional way, or without dhyanas, when the mind is stable, does not move, then one can start meditating on the mind itself. And this can only be when these gaps between the thoughts become kind of a habit, natural state. In these gaps, then one meditates on the thoughts as something illusionary, but still they are part of this great mind or great nirvana from which we cannot be separated. From the Dharmakaya. It does not mean that in our state it is covered, that it is not there. That is why awakening of faith in Mahayana. The Mahayana is this one mind. One mind belongs to everybody, but does not belong to anyone. The Christian first missionaries who translated this treatise, I forgot his name, they consider this one mind to be God. They translate one mind as God. I don't know if they are right or if they are wrong. It depends on all what we see according to our conditioning. And they are conditioned to see in this way. But the Buddhist would not find it suitable to make this comparison. But from their point of view, why not? Because we are programmed in this way. And we should be aware that what the reality that we perceive is actually connected with our programming. When we know it, then we will not be so afraid of the snake in the shape of the rope. And then when the real snake comes, we also not be afraid, because the real snake or false snake, these extreme reactions, non-wise reactions, they are not healthy, they are unhealthy. So clinging in all forms, even clinging to Dharma, can be unhealthy. But in the beginning, it's better to cling to Dharma than to cling to some absurd idea like my parents believed so much in communist ideas and so on. They believed so much until they got frustrated. So it is much better to believe in a Dharma. One will not get frustrated when one understands it, but one will get frustrated when one holds to it. And this is the truth. Whatever one holds to, ultimately, from the point of view of ultimate reality, from the point of view of Buddha nature, one will get frustrated. So the idea of yoga is the idea of harmony, and idea of harmony is this timeless dimension and the dimension in time which we cannot avoid. They have to be in harmony. So they become in harmony in these different stages of meditation which we have explained. First, we realize these negative thoughts are unhealthy, we stop them. Then we realize the one who stopping them, one who stops them is also impermanent. What is stopping them is also impermanent. What really lasts is that which is not impermanent, and that will bring stability and security, which is true. But in this, there is still some real subject, a real individual which realizes the truth as separate from the one mind, which is always in the truth. So this stage of realizing that this impermanence is not the true state of thing, the bodhisattva in the stage of the realization of the faith can see, and the disciple in the stage of entering the stream can see. So they don't take these worldly things too seriously. This is a taste of freedom. This taste of freedom cannot come from the relative. This taste of freedom must come from that which is not relative, which is lasting. This is a difference between the materialistic approach, like my parents had, being the scientist, and the religious approach. We find security not in so much in the time dimension, in progress and so on, but in the timeless dimension. Now, when we practice, realize the bodhisattva path, realizing the individual path is called the seeming bodhi. It is not yet in our text, we have learned. It is not yet the real body, the individual body as explained in Lotus Sutra, Miao Fa Lien Fa Jing. It is only, so to say, to lead us to the absolute truth, which is the same for everybody. So the Buddha used the skillful means of the chariots run by I forgot what was the chariot run by, to bring you to the highest chariot, which is either elephant or horse, or I don't remember. But anyway, this is individual realization is the only prelude to the true realization, which is not individual. And when we realize non-individual realization, which is much more difficult than realizing the individual realization, what will happen? We have a partial realization because we still believe we are not in the beginning, and our differentiation is still dependent on our habitual tendencies. In case of the Buddha, they become real objective, equal with Dharma. In our case, even we realize the first stage, second stage, third stage, up till 10th stage of the Bodhisattva path, it is still partial realization. The complete realization is when the time and no time becomes the same. Then the there is no place for any disturbance whatsoever. There is no place for any limitation whatsoever. So this is a state very difficult to grasp, but yet it is there. And it is believed that the author of this treatise, at least Taishi Tashe, believes it. Master Taishi, who wrote about this book, he believes that the Ashwagosha is a real author, even so the scholars don't believe, Liang Qichao and so on, they believe it was a Chinese, some monk. Taishi say, no, it is the Ashwagosha himself who is in the 8th stage of Bodhisattva realization. That means his mind does not move. That's why it's called Achala, Putong. The mind does not move. Then we really know what is the inside is nirvana, outside is nirvana. Nothing except nirvana really exists. So we have a lot to learn, and let's come now. Otherwise, we will never finish. Any other questions? I have diverted from questions to the explanation. So shall we go to the next part of our scripture? Before we were explaining this shijie. Shijie means process of realization. In Chinese character, it means actually beginning body. Shi means beginning. Kai shi. But the beginning is actually, we have also learned, is inseparable from the end. So these 4 stages, which are the marks of every process, and we experience in the world all is process, these 4 stages, they cannot be separated from each other. They exist only in mutual relation. And whatever exists in mutual relation cannot be real by itself. Only that which exists by itself is real in itself, and that is in the suchness, which is the true nature of the mind in this tradition. It just reflects and does not need any stand. It does not read, we will read also, it does not need any body. It just does its job. And the job of the mind is just to be like a mirror. The images appear in the mirror, but they cannot be grasped. If you grasp them, you will be frustrated, right? And that is the very nature of the mind. So we have covered this part explaining the gradual process of realization. So we have learned, when we understand that our original nature of mind is bodhi, we also realize at the same time body is only in relation, jue is only in relation to pu jue. When we realize jue in relation to pu jue, we cannot have jue without pu jue, because we are not yet in the timeless dimension. So we are in shijie, in the process of realization, which, so to say, also has no end. But we are connected to this no end by the original enlightenment. Original enlightenment is the nature of the mind. But this nature of the mind is always there. But in our condition, it exists in the polluted state. Sui ran. Jue sui ran. That means enlightenment according to our pollution. But when we understand enlightenment in relation to our pollution, this is wonderful logic, very useful for meditation. I really like it. We can only understand the enlightenment in relation to non-enlightenment. If we don't understand non-enlightenment, we cannot understand enlightenment. And the more we understand non-enlightenment, the more we have knowledge of the enlightenment. This is kind of a paradox. The more sensitive we become to our non-enlightened nature, how we become more sensitive to our non-enlightened nature. We have to cultivate samadhi. The samadhi of the Buddha is called ocean samadhi. In this samadhi of the Buddha, all the phenomena just naturally arise and naturally cease. He just reflects them as they are, so he can help so many different types of beings according to their differentiations. That we can only get intuition about that when we have attained this 8th stage of realization. Then we understand really the dependent origination. As you know, the Nidana Sutta, the Ananda says that he is a stream enterer. He says that he understands the dependent origination, and the Buddha tells him, don't say so, don't say so. You don't understand dependent origination. It's very, very difficult to understand dependent origination. Don't make yourself an illusion. Even you become the bodhisattva realization, still you are directed according to your wishes, according to your attentions, which comes with the wishes. Only when you have become an arahat or 8th stage bodhisattva, all these tendencies, they are an illusion because the mind does not move. Then we can understand really the dependent origination. But in case of arahat, he still has a tendency to believe that his realization belongs to him, and that he goes away from the samsara, which belongs to everyone else. But the bodhisattva, he can't believe it. That's why he gives rise to bodhicitta. Bodhicitta denies possibility of individual enlightenment. And according to the masters of Mahayana, it is much faster way to enlightenment. I don't say any judgment. I just say what both the Nagarjuna and Asanga say, who are the fathers of the philosophical systems of Mahayana. it is a much faster way, because we, from the beginning, we start contemplating the timeless, and we have faith in the timeless dimension, which is nothing but the true nature of our mind. So even when we have realized the really great realization, I don't know if Aishi is right that Ashwagosha was really in such a high state. But anyway, even if we realize the eighth stage where the mind does not move anymore and we can move other objects, when the mind does not move anymore, we can learn the power of moving other objects. It is written in the Theravada scriptures also. These arahats, they could make iron to gold and all kinds of things. At least the scriptures say so. I was not there, I don't know. But scriptures very often, one cannot take literally. They explain the certain things which are possible to make with the mind, to implant a deep belief in us. So until we have reached, that's where we ended, until we have reached the state of Buddhahood, we are still in the, so to say, we still have a beginning, and we have the end as something being different. Only for the Buddha, the beginning and the end, they become the same. The all processes, they are just an illusion. And this truth of suchness or of emptiness or of the true element of Dharma, it is a lasting truth. And the Buddha, which is born in this tradition, it's just a passing truth which the highest truth uses to awaken us ignorant beings. So now we come to the power of this original enlightenment, Penjue, but original enlightenment, Sui Ran, which is victim to the influences of the thought, holding to thought, or to the habitual energies of the thought, and identifying with the thought. We all do it. This is very difficult. Even we have realized the great realization. We have realized the first stage of Bodhisattva. We still have this tendency of taking the thoughts as something real, of identifying with them. This is very difficult to get rid of. Even so, we see the reality is free from identification, inside, outside, everything. Still, this we are governed by these vasanas, by these habitual energies, but we don't take them so seriously when we progress in our meditation. So we create harmony in our mind between that which is timeless and that which is defined by time, by arising, by continuity, impermanence, and cessation. So if we have such a realization, we have peace. If the peace is disturbed, we learn from this disturbance. When we become enlightened, what is the difference between enlightened person and non-enlightened person? The enlightened person, because he has realized something which is not really in the framework of worldly experience, he then does not take this worldly experience so seriously. He has some freedom in regard to it. Freedom of non-identifying, which brings peace into the mind. So this world, then precisely what Buddha teaches, becomes more like a dream. And when it becomes more like a dream, when we wake up from this dream, we are still in the same mind. That is why one mind. For Buddha, we ignorant beings and the saints and the Buddhas, they are just one mind, as we have learned. And one mind is a Dharma. So now we come to the manifestations of the original enlightenment in our defiled minds. And the text says there are two manifestations of the original enlightenment, which gives us then they are powers which are innate to the enlightenment, and which we become more and more conscious as we go through the stages of realization. They are the power of the purity of wisdom and the power of unthinkable function. Function here means yeah, that is kriya, that is doing, unthinkable doing. So we have learned, this is very important, we have learned before that this dependent origination, which is the essence of Buddha's realization, is based on Tathagata Garbha, on the Buddha nature. We have learned also they are two schools of mind only. One is the Asanga Vasubandhu school based on the Alaya, dependent origination based on Alaya. And Alaya in this tradition is the mind which dwells in the world, which is impermanent mind. Now, in this tradition, the dependent origination is not based on the impermanent mind, but is based on the permanent state of Buddha nature, which we call the matrix of the Tathagata. And this, when we aware of it, we, so to say, we are connected with the original enlightenment. This Buddha nature is the original enlightenment, which is true to all beings. This is the mirror without the stand. In this mirror, nothing really exists. It is universal. And the alaya is not just this impermanent mind which clings to the world, but alaya is, we have learned, the mixture of the true mind which does not dwell anywhere, which is suchness and always suchness, and suchness is the true nature of all the phenomena also, and it is mixed with the impermanent mind, which is even so it is not the same as this permanent mind, the essence of the mind, the true nature of the mind. It is also not different from this nature of the mind. That's why we have learned one mind. Dharma is a one mind. One mind is that this impermanence we are experiencing, this discomfort in the body we are experiencing, this discomfort in mind and all kinds of turbulence in the mind, all this is not separable from the Buddha nature. It is not same as Buddha nature, but it is also never separated from the Buddha nature. So whether we are enlightened or whether we are dreaming, Buddhism says that our state is like dreaming. We are still in the same mind. When we wake up, it's still the same mind. When we are troubled, it's also the same mind. When we happy, it's always the same mind. You cannot jump out of your mind nature. And this mind nature, when you believe in it, it has the power of pure wisdom. Our scripture says. I have made my own translation. So this aspect, so this innate enlightenment or original enlightenment has two aspects. Here, this xiang means nimitta, and nimitta we have learned we can translate as image, we can translate as aspect, we can translate as sign, we can translate as symbol, we can translate as object. So this is wonderful about the language. We can, when every language has a different usage. And what is wonderful about the classical languages that we have so many different usages according to your understanding. When we read the classical Chinese or Sanskrit, we can understand in many, many different ways according to our level of wisdom. It does not mean that our translation is right or our translation is wrong. We may know Sanskrit or classical Chinese very well, but still we can make a very different translation. And this in modern languages is very difficult because we are very fixed. So we can translate here this Penjie Yo Liang Xiang has two aspects, but it also means two objects. It also means two images. It also can, but here maybe aspect, I accept the intuition of Professor Hakeda. I also translate it as aspect, but we should be aware that there are many possibilities. Also, two objects is perfectly fine. Two pictures is perfectly fine. So it has the aspect of the purity of wisdom. It means infusion or perfumation or satiation. It's all synonyms, depends how we translate it, of mind based on the power of Dharma. Our mind is infused by Dharma, and we have learned that Dharma is one mind. Please remember. One mind is the timeless dimension which is innate to the mind. which works, manifests in time. And this is the use we have learned in the beginning. Qi, Xiang, Yung cannot be separated. This is also very important for Taoism, for Confucianism. Qi, Xiang, Yung. The essence, if it is true, cannot be separated from its manifestation in time, which is in images, which is in objects, which is in meanings. All this is nimitta, which is in aspects. And it is its use. So this is also, we have learned the meaning of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The essence is timeless, all pervasive. The manifestations, even so they manifest in time, they still have the taste of timelessness, Dharma. And its use, without the use, this essence is has no practical application. What kind of essence? Essence have to have a practical application. That is very important aspect of Chinese philosophy. So is based on the power of Dharma. That means a correct practice and fulfilling skillful means. So when we understand this one mind, this timeless dimension, this one mind Dharma, then we understand also the correct practice and skillful means. Two things. Correct practice is and skillful means is expression of wisdom. Without the correct practice and the skillful means, the wisdom has no application. Due to them, the image of a compound consciousness is broken. So this timeless dimension breaks our attachment to the images which appear in time and with which we identify. And mind continuity or reality of the mind continuity also disappears. These are in higher stages of realization, of course, not in our stage. And Dharmakaya is revealed because the wisdom becomes completely pure. So how the wisdom affects us? We don't hold so much to the our habitual energies. We identify less with our thoughts. And we see this continuity as being actually due to our own habits, which are not the same as the habits of the others. So they are subjective, not objective. Objectivity belongs only to that which is beyond thought. This is very difficult to understand. And that is a function of this purity of wisdom. So this Dharma, if we understand it as a one mind, then will manifest inside and outside. Inside will manifest as a faith in the three jewels, faith in the dependent origination, faith in the true nature of our experience, being selfless, and in outer will manifest in detachment, in strengthening of faith, in a determination to practice more, right? So it means the pure wisdom has is affecting us more and more, so that the practice become part of our life. We don't need to struggle for it. It's always there, and we always determine to learn by obstacles, by good experiences, by bad experiences. That means that the wisdom is affecting us, and this wisdom is the original nature of the mind. So even so, the practice is gradual. One never, if one has this pure wisdom, one never gets separated from this intuition into the purity of wisdom, which belongs to the original enlightenment, 本觉, original awareness. Now, our aim is that this awareness connected to our thinking, to our process of being in the world, is observing the awareness which is the nature of the mind. And these two then exist parallel to each other in complete harmony. I see that we are already out of time. Let us finish here. The next, we will explain the pure wisdom more in detail and how it is connected to the other aspect, which is the unthinkable functions, unthinkable karma. Because we beings, we have unthinkable karma. So this pure wisdom can also do unthinkable things. But let us leave it for the next time. And if you have time, please have a look at the Agus has found the English translation, I think, right? Even two versions of the English translation. So you can share it with those who are interested. As you may know, there is also translation of Daisetsu Suzuki, who is very famous, who is one of the chief interpreters of Zen. But he is based on Shikshananda translation. The translation we are using is Paramartha. Genti. I don't know the book Agus have. I don't have that book. Or did you send it to me? Maybe you can send it.
Okay, Faster.
And I
I
don't know
will
if he
email to you.
I don't know if he uses Shikshananda or he uses the Paramartha. Anyway, these two translations. Paramartha, okay. The Suzuki translation is very, also Hakeda translation is kind of a more philosophical interpretation. He's very smart, very clever, but it it can make things rather complicated. But the Buddhist actually philosophy and Buddhist practice is very practical, and that aspect is not so obvious, not so much in Hakeda, but it is very good translation. But again, it is based on his own intuition, and he's a philosopher. The philosopher has always a tendency to uh, uh, be based on these concepts he has understood. And so he uses words like absolute, which are not necessary in Buddhism and so on. And we don't need these words actually to understand Buddhism. Buddhism is very practical. But he wants the Western intellectuals to understand the greatness of Buddhist philosophy, and in that he is quite successful. But his translation is not very readable for a simple for a simple man. He will find it very difficult. So, but actually, Buddhism is meant for a simple man and to improve the quality of his life. And it is very practical. Even this philosophy of the Tathagata Garbha is very practical. It is not any dogma. It is just a skillful means to come to clarity faster. And this is exactly what the scriptures say also. So according to Lankavatara, the alaya is in nature just the Buddha nature. But we have to realize it, and we have to realize it by practicing moment by moment. This is also the practice in the scripture, moment by moment. So that we see these gaps of non-awareness more and more clearly, and see awareness more and more clearly as being the nature of our mind. That is Zen. Okay, so let us finish here, and we will meet definitely after 2 weeks, and maybe let us see what conditions I'm going to face in the retreat. But probably next week we miss. I will give you a call. Now we are, even so we are far away, we are very near. Always we can talk. No, this is a wonder of modern civilization, which, however, most of us bring more to confusion, not more to clarity. But anyway, it is a great, we can talk with each other like if you were in front of me and I am in front of you. And so we are grateful to the scientists, and we try to make sense into science, and that will be wonderful. So, 愿以此功德普济群，我等一众生皆共成佛道。May the merit of today's practice spread to all beings so that we attain the state of perfection. Amen.